How's it going, everybody? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I invite you to pull up a chair, sit back, and relax, and welcome you to another episode of the SPMA Council Podcast. I hope everyone's doing okay with schooling. I hope everyone is healthy, physically healthy, and just as important, mentally healthy. Online schooling may be a bit a bit of a downer on some people. So just make sure you're doing some daily check-ins with yourself, checking in with your friends, your family, to make sure that you're okay. Myself, honestly, I found that taking walks through parks helps clear the mind. I know the Niagara region has a bunch of trails that can be easily accessed through people. My apartment has a nice park. I think it's the Glenridge Quarry Naturalization Site that I go to a couple times. So I can access that safely and keep myself in check. And I hope everyone does that at least once a week, just to make sure that you're feeling okay and you're feeling positive. My co-host for this episode, making his triumphant return with the questionable Montreal Canadiens jersey in the background, but we will worry about that later. Turn the camera the other way, for heaven's sake. Neville Madill, welcome to the show.
I don't know if I can keep coming on if I'm going to be advertising a little price jersey there. Yeah, thank you for letting me co-host again. Well, going back to what we were talking about a little bit before, though, talking about making sure you're good mentally, with mental health, making sure your life is balanced. Our senior director of events, Nat Hamill, basically she has her own podcast called Did I Ask, and she released this big post about selling merchandise from the week of October 4th to 10th, spreading awareness. All the proceeds go to, I'm not sure which foundation. I can't quite remember the name.
I think it's the CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association.
Right. Yeah. So she's done really good things there, and because I mean, it's just great what she's doing. I think that's something that we all have, kind of maybe tapped into during quarantine, and that's not a bad thing. It's just something that is going to happen at some point.
Yep.
And while we're talking about it, it's just great what she's doing, and we're all super proud of her. So shout out to Nat.
Yeah. If you want more information on that, the Instagram handle is at Did I Ask Podcast, I think, and you can go check that out. Again, all proceeds go to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Really great cause. Moving on to the main event of this episode, we interviewed Brock men's volleyball coach, Matt Ragogna. He's also the assistant coach for Team Ontario for the 2022 Canada Games, the technical director for the Niagara Rapids, the founder of Niagara Youth Life Coaching. He is a jack of all trades, but this was a really, really great episode that you should tune into till the final seconds. Neville, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, you were kind of getting stumbled over your words because he has so many different titles. He's doing 4 or 5 different major things in his life right now to keep busy, and he talks about being busy all the time during his during the episode.
Talk about commitment, eh? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's like when you listen to this, you have to think that that his responsibilities is an epitome of getting out of your comfort zone. It's just awesome. Seriously, that's the one word to sum it up, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be motivated to do more after this episode. So
yeah. We when we were doing the recording, we ended it off, and I was like, boy, I'm fired up. Up.
No, yeah, it's 5 o'clock, and I still want to work. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, the points range from life advice to advice on commitment to coaching advice that is easily transferable to literally any role in the sport industry. So I suggest that you pay close attention, and I hope that you can gain something for it, which is the goal of this podcast.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think should we send it over to Matt?
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to follow the podcast some more, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at SPMA Council Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. We're on there to tune in and listen to all the episodes we have available. But without further ado, let's head over to Matt Ragogna of Brock Volleyball for a great episode. Enjoy, folks. All right, we have a great episode planned for you today, as I said in the intro. And joining us, it's a bit of a milestone episode because we have on our first varsity head coach from the Brock Badgers men's volleyball team and the assistant coach of Team Ontario Volleyball for the Canada Games. Please welcome Matt Ragogna to the podcast. How's it going? And it's great to have you on.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for the invite, and really happy to give back to the sport management department over these years for sure. So yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thanks again, Matt. And let's get started into the usual first question, regular segment on the show. What makes your story of how you got to where you are now unique?
Yeah, so I guess a little bit about me going through. I came to Brock in 2011 to do my Bachelor of Sport Management, like I'm sure many listeners on this podcast here. And I had amazing dreams to be the GM of the Vancouver Canucks, and that was goal number one. And things started to change pretty quickly after that. But yeah, I took a little bit of a different route than most people to get to coaching. Coaches usually are athletes for a lot of their career, and then they turn coaches when they're done playing. But I actually started coaching volleyball a lot more before I started playing. So I started coaching a little bit early in my university career, helping out, and I guess I'll go through that later. But then got a chance to play on the men's team back in 2016 when it had its first year back in the program, and then I turned back to coach after. So it's definitely been a different pathway, a little bit more of a bumpier road there. But after I graduated in 2015, I jumped right into my master's. So I stayed at Brock here, did my master's in the kinesiology department under youth sport coaching with Dr. Phil Sullivan, who was the past men's rugby coach. Yeah, following that, got more into coaching and started working more for the local volleyball club here in Niagara, which I still currently do. And yeah, here we are. So that's kind of a little bit of the introduction of the unique story. But I was definitely a hockey kid growing up. I played hockey all my life. I played some AAA as well. And then once I looked into getting more into the coaching side of volleyball, that kind of turned and shifted my focus there. So became a little bit more volleyball oriented. And one thing that I love the most about kind of this whole pathway and journey is the sport management program itself. When I recruit, when I talk to people about the program, when I really speak anything about it, it's an amazing program with many opportunities, and it gives you freedom to go find what you like and what you don't like in the sport industry, and kind of how you can make that work as your time as a student. And when you do hit that workforce, or when you're looking to be a grad student or anything past there, it's there's lots of opportunities. It's a great department, so nothing but good things to say.
Any favorite teams during your time in hockey?
Teams as in like NHL teams, like favorite teams that way. I'm just a Canuck guy. I was a big Roberto Luongo fan growing up. So when he got traded from Florida to Vancouver, I said that's the team I'm going to stick with, and happy with a good performance this past postseason from the Canucks. So getting better every year.
Kind of all over the map here. Like, I'm a Canadiens fan. If you can see that Price jersey right there, we got a Canucks fan, and then we got Will, the prideful Leafs fan. So you were talking about your story a little bit, and one of your duties, or one of your pathways as a sport manager, was being a TA. So are there any moments that have stood out to you during your time as a TA? And in some ways, is it kind of similar to the responsibilities that coaching a team brings?
You know what? It's still something I actually do. I do TA right now in the sport management department as well. But when I started as a grad student, I guess it was 2015, when I started TAing. I think it's really cool now to see a lot of kids that when I was TAing in first year that are now out in the industry working and doing some really cool jobs. I think that's more of a hit home for me right now. And I think that's really similar when we look at the team, like especially the volleyball guys for me, but a lot of guys that I played with, a lot of guys that are graduated now from our program, and some really cool things that they're doing out in their life. And I think when we get a chance, COVID aside, but when we get a chance to get back with our alumni event and get the guys back on the court all together, it's really cool to hear their stories and what they're doing around. So I think that's a big part for me in terms of matching, I guess, teaching the sport, but it's great for me too. Again, I say nothing but good things about the sport management department. So to see a lot of these kids going through, I guess a lot of these students going through their years as sport managers and developing and working new jobs and trying new volunteer opportunities, especially with Canada Games. I think it's awesome that there's a ton of sport management students that are interested in volunteering and helping out with the Canada Games here in Niagara. And when we get to promote those jobs too, I think it's a great part as a TA, right? So yes, we're there in seminars and we're marking a lot of papers here and there, but I have had a lot of students reach out, whether through LinkedIn or through email, just asking general questions, whether it's career questions, whether it's job questions, whether it's internship questions. So I think that's a big piece for me that I really do enjoy. And now seeing some of them anyway, and the full working force is a really cool opportunity, and it's a networking part, right? Networking for them, and then also on my side too, because I think it's really cool to see people be successful in different positions.
Definitely, and I think that's the most fulfilling part. As a TA, I can imagine, when students go go beyond, just handing the papers and then calling it a day, as opposed to reaching out and looking for opportunities to help their success and growth as a professional. That's what I imagine is the most fulfilling part. And the same can be said with coaching your players. When if you have guys that's maybe aren't necessarily stars, but work their way up through the system and eventually land a impact role on the team. That can bring the same level of fulfillment. I can imagine, and that sort of segues into the next question that I have, going into your endeavors as a varsity coach, and starting at the beginning. What did the process look like for you developing into a varsity coach? What drew you into coaching, and what type of training and certifications did you take to eventually get to the varsity coaching level?
Yeah, so my first year of university was actually pretty quiet. I really didn't do too much in terms of volunteering, getting out there. I know the sport management motto is volunteer as much as you can, and I did little bits and parts, especially for like the 1P91, 1P92 classes that we still have. But a big step for me was in second year, and I actually reached out to the local volleyball club, so the Niagara Rapids Volleyball Club, and I said, hey, do you know what, like, I'm semi-interested in coaching. I've always been a big fan of working camps, working with kids. So for me, that was a general interest itself. And I started working for the club itself, just coaching that year as a part-time assistant coach, volunteer role, a couple of nights a week. And as I guess kept growing over the years, I kept volunteering for different events that Niagara held. So whether it was coaching, maybe head coaching a team, assistant coaching another, working a lot with their house leagues. We also had the Volleyball Canada Center of Excellence here that was run by Dale Melnick and Nathan Grunveld, former Brock coach and former Niagara College coach. And I started helping out in the mornings too. So just little stuff to get going, I guess, in my second year. During that time, though, I started looking at certification as well. there's quite a bit of certification that's needed to, I guess, progress through your levels, like there is any sport. And so I started looking at my levels and getting into that. And they're not called level 1, 2, 3 anymore, but now they're development, advanced development, performance, and advanced performance. So as we work our way up in the NCCP, I started going through those classes and started taking some on weekends. Some were online, some are through home. But I really focused on that a lot in my second, third, and fourth year of university, and knocking those off. And I think being able to integrate, and that's something that we tell a lot of our sport management students now, is that the content that you're learning, if you can find ways to integrate into your life, whether it doesn't have to be coaching, but whether it's marketing, whether it's if you're doing anything in sport law or sport event management, like there's a lot of opportunities for students to get into. So I think that was a big step for me right away from a coaching level. I also joined in third year. So we do have our third year 3PO2 field placement class. And I actually started working for the women's volleyball team under Dale Melnick, and I coached there for 3 years as an assistant coach. So I started as an 80-hour placement intern into a part-time assistant coach, and then in my final year as a full-time assistant coach. And as I was going through there, she was a big supporter for me too, helping me out a ton, helping me with my levels, helping me go through the process, even getting me into my performance certification classes, which is a big, that's more of an application process, which was awesome to have. I think a big part too with the networking side is spending time with coaches who want to make their assistants better. And that's kind of one of my mottos to this day with my coaching staff, which I hope that if they do listen to this, they're getting the same out of it as I want them to be. But as far as they want to go is how much I'm willing to help them, right? So if they're really invested, if they want to learn more, if they want to have conversations, quality conversations, and I'm always up for those conversations. And I think that development piece is huge when you're kind of going through this whole coaching process. So I was lucky to be working with the local volleyball club, coaching a couple teams every year, as well as working with the Brock women's volleyball team and getting experience in between those two levels. So I think that's a really big part that started me off when I was in my undergrad. Kind of moving ahead, like I think the networking part that I stay on is just kind of looking into getting yourself into more regional opportunities. So from a high performance side, I started coaching at the regional summer games, the Ontario Summer Games in 2016. And I had coached one of the teams there that was successful and won gold that year for our region. And that was kind of my first taste. My first taste into the kind of the high performance circuit. And again, these are all just volunteer positions where you got to find time and make time for these if you're really invested. And I think that was a big piece for me to jump to that high performance side, because from there I kind of took my two different routes now. Of one was still coaching with Rapids every year and working through there with Brock, and then the other side was on the high performance side, which usually takes place in the summer. So I guess that's kind of the wrap up on the club side in terms of coaching. But when I made my way into the high performance side, I did 3 years in a row, where 2016 was with the Ontario Summer Games. 2017, I found a role as an assistant coach with the Team Ontario Red program. So that's our 16U age program. That team actually went out to BC, and the head coach of that team is actually the women's coach now, Steve Delaney here at Brock. So Steve and I actually didn't know each other when he was head coaching and I was assistant coaching. He got hired at Brock that summer for the women's team. And then a year later, I got hired for the men's team. So it's funny how the small worlds kind of collide there. But we were actually coaching together and went out to BC that year and won a gold in our division cup too. So from then I moved up the next level. So I head coached the team. I guess it was not this past summer, last summer. So 2019. I head coached the Team O Red group there, where we went out to Halifax and placed well and did a good job there. And I guess this summer was more of an upgrade as well, being named an assistant coach to the Canada Games team. So the Canada Games team, I guess, is the Team Ontario team, the 17U boys this summer. So we had more of an online format just because of COVID changed a couple of things. But we're currently in our Team O Elite program right now. So I was just in Orangeville last weekend with the coaches and athletes, getting training going and working towards Canada Games, which is now a couple of years away. But that'll keep me busy now, looking ahead there. So I guess for me, in terms of where the certification came from and where kind of the development level, I got a taste of everything. I've coached every age group on the boys side, from 13U to 18U. when I'm going through my levels as well. So I do have my performance coach certification. That took quite a bit of work to finish that off. I think that was 2 years ago that I got it all done there. So my master's research is in coaching youth sport. So a lot of help goes through working on a thesis and putting it into practice and research, which I think is a big pro as well. And yeah, other than that, it's been awesome. I think it's been a big part of training. But the only other note I wrote down here is, there's a lot of time spent when no one's watching, and it's kind of my motto for a lot of the stuff I do, that some of your best work, some of your best work is done when people aren't watching. And I say it to the guys all the time. People come watch games and they see you playing a game, but they don't see the 5 practices a week, 3 workouts a week, extra therapy, extra game video, and then taking care of your academics as well. So on a coaching side, I think it's the same thing, where people don't see the prep work that goes in sometimes, and that's totally fine. But your best work can be done when no one's watching. I think that's a big success for me too.
Yeah, so obviously you worked very hard to get, to this point, and it eventually all paid off, and you were named as the Brock men's volleyball coach in April 2019. So what do you think have been the go-to strategies that you've used to effectively lead the team? And, the highlight being, the team's first ever playoff appearance last season against Western.
Yeah, it's been
sorry, U of T. My bad, U of T. You qualified for the playoffs against Western. My bad.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. I will say, like, when I got offered the job, it was definitely a full circle experience for me. The program's been a big part of my life, even getting it started. So my friend and I actually brought the idea up to Brock in 2014, maybe 2015. To Rob Hilson, who now works in the Brock Student Union, but he was the athletic director at the time. And we said, what does it take to get a men's volleyball program going here? And we went through a lot of meetings, went through a lot of stuff to even get an idea before we got approved for a club team. And so a big part for me is this whole idea for me of the Brock men's volleyball program is almost a full journey for me. So from a little idea to get a varsity team, to making it a club team, to being able to play on the first team back, and then assistant coach, and now a head coach. So I think a big thing for me is leading by example. I think that's number one that I tell the guys, and show it just with what I do. They know I'm a pretty busy guy with things going on, and being able to manage a lot of it and keep everyone on time and on task, I think, is important. But the lead by example thing's a big one for me, right? If I'm coming in late to practice, I can't ask my guys to be on time. If I'm not organized or planned, how can I expect the same from them when we're game planning or getting ready for a match that weekend? Just little things like that, I think, are a big pro when going in the program, especially because a lot of the guys are very close in age to me as well. So last year was my first season. I had 1 older than me, and I had 5 that I played with in 2016. So that's also a different kind of atmosphere there.
Talk about full circle. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's my little baby, actually. It's this program means a lot to me. It's been from the thought idea itself, and to see where it's come now. And even this year, I have 3 guys that I played with still. So they're in their 5th year now, but 3 guys that I played with in 2016 are in their 5th year. To see that whole full circle, as well as fellow athlete, to me being an assistant coach for a couple of years, to me head coaching now, and seeing them go through this journey. I guess, like, you look at TAing as well, and you see this journey of where they started and what they're going to be leaving Brock as, and you're hoping that they're leaving as good role models, good alumni, and people who are going to be successful off the court too. So leading by example is the big one first. I think the second one is to be open and honest, and especially with a different time going on now, I think that to be open with your athletes, they just want to hear what's going on, right? When you're talking about ideas, when you're talking about a thought process, they want to be heard, right? And they want to have an opportunity to say maybe adjustments, thoughts, things that they're seeing. An easy one for me is, I don't see what they see on the court. I'm not the one that's standing there during the play. And I think those communications and giving them the flexibility and the confidence in themselves to make those decisions is a big part for me. And a lot of our conversations in practice are very open, right? I ask them to be respectful, and it's the same on my end too. But when we're being honest with whether it's stats, whether it's rotations, there's so many things that are going on that I think that's a big part for them. And I think it helps promote the success off the court too. Being a TA also helps that I know programs pretty well here around the university. So academics is a huge part for me, being a master's student, a previous master's student as well, and keeping up on them with their academics, especially now that we're a little bit different situated with the season this year. And I think that open and honest part is a big pro there. And then the last thing I've written down, I guess, for like with this program, and I'll kind of talk about the successes, but taking the time to get to know them. I try and have conversations with them as much as I can. I'm the first one to show up early and have a conversation. I try and rotate through different practices as well. But they're all different, right? They're all uniquely different in terms of where they're coming from, their experience, where do they want to go. We have athletes who want to go play pro after post-secondary. We have athletes who are just here to have fun and make a good career out of it in the OUA. We have some guys that are there because they know they're there to be kind of the glue of the team and to be part of that process. So the more that you take the time to get to know them, the bigger they're going to help you out when you're in a timeout and crunch time and you're asking them to do something and they agree, they don't agree, they're going to look at you and say, okay, I trust you, let's do this, right? And sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but when you have that trust and that respect level too, I think that's a big piece to the overall success of a program and the culture. So
yeah, great answers. Great answers there. I want to circle back to the formation of the program. And the fact that you say that it's sort of like your baby in a way, like that, like having the goal to at least try and see if a volleyball team can be formed, even as something as basic as a club level, like that takes a lot of guts, and it's something that that you have to be like 100% committed. There's not a doubt in your mind that it can't work, because if any doubt surfaces, it's gonna cost you, and it's paid off, culminating in the high point of you guys making the playoffs. And the other thing I noticed is your coaching philosophy of I don't see what's going on the court, and having players giving players the freedom to make good decisions while giving helpful pointers here and there, like that. Like regardless of how good the team is, that fosters good culture. And when you have good culture, eventually word's going to spread that hey, this program is good. They've got a good knowledge. They have a good way of knowing, of not only like knowing the game, but being able to foster a good team environment, which trends will show that it leads to good recruits joining the team and ultimately making the squad better. So lots of stuff that hopefully listeners at home you can take if you're interested in coaching, or just basic aspects you want to put into your professional life, like. Even if you're like just a simple manager, like the aspects of like having trust in your colleagues, giving them the freedom to make good decisions, become universal values that if that once you adopt them, your chances of success dramatically go up. Sort of segueing into the next question here, and the pandemic's been around us for almost seems like forever, like it or not. So how have your coaching strategies changed since the pandemic started? And if so, how? And given the circumstances surrounding the 2020-2021 OUA season, what does an average week look like for yourself and the team?
Yeah, it's definitely been different. I know coaches have had to adjust a lot, and then not just myself, across the board on any sport in terms of what they're able to do and not do with their athletes. And Brock Athletics has done an amazing job giving us a return to train protocol and working hard and making sure that's a safe environment for coaches and athletes to return to campus to train. So this summer looked a little bit different for us, just because normally we do train maybe For the local guys that are here, we can get on court once or twice a week, or we definitely have the team down every week, one weekend a month, just to see each other and get together. But with everything kind of shifting online, we moved to more of an online, I guess, call it player academy, team meeting, you call it whatever you want, but just seeing the guys once a week and going through different sports psych topics. We did position meetings as well, and we had different group meetings going through, and a big part of that was just integrating our new recruits into the team. We have 5 new recruits, four first years, and then 1 transfer from Niagara College, and having those guys come in and jump in with the team and be online was a good start. Just normally they'd be able to see each other during the summer and kind of mesh that way. But summer was definitely a little bit different with more online status going through. I guess before August, I think the OUA announced pretty early that they weren't having any fall sports this year. So for us as a full year sport, fall and winter, they pushed us to January. So we're kind of holding off right now, seeing what that's going to look like. But there's no games, there's no exhibition, there's nothing till January for sure. So for us, we didn't have to rush, but we didn't have to come back quickly. We got everyone here by the start of school, and it was more of an open idea. Like, players had options to come back, obviously, because people are paying rent, people are making decisions, and school's online. So what are they going to do? So we did have our whole team come back, which I think is awesome. And I think that speaks to the culture as well, because I do know there's other university programs, not at Brock, but other programs that athletes stayed at home, or they weren't interested in going down to school even to train a little. So I think that speaks a lot to have all the guys coming down. And for us, Steve, the women's coach, and I did a lot of work in our return to train plan. So what we had to do is we had to take a couple things in consideration. So 1, what was Brock allowing us to do? And 2, also noting that these guys haven't been on an indoor court in about 6 months. So with our return to train plan, normally when they come back, it's 5 days a week. We're full go. Preseason's literally 1 week in, and we're going. But this year's a little bit different. So this year we kind of prepped the guys. So we started off with 1 time a week, moved to 2 times a week for the last 2 weeks, and now we're in our second week of 3 times a week for the guys. So they're getting on court 3 times right now, which is a healthy number. We're capped at the number of guys, so we have 11 guys on court right now. We're hoping to increase that in our return to train plan come next week or right after in reading week there, to get to more full 6-on-6 training. But that's just waiting for our return to train plan. They're still working out twice a week. We did have field sessions as well, once or twice, just depending on the weather and what that looked like. So they're keeping busy that way. So they're still getting touches, or they're being active with the team at least 5 times a week, which is helpful. The tough thing is, obviously, we can't come into campus right away. So for them, it's a little bit tougher that they have to kind of book it over to Brock, practice for an hour and a half, because we have to give time for cleaning and everything in between next practices, and an hour and a half, and then they have to leave campus pretty quickly after. So in terms of our return to play setup, it's slowly getting there. The OUA makes their decision October 7th or 8th, next Thursday or next Friday on the season. So we're kind of holding out right now on the balance. We're not really sure. I can't really speak to any side if I believe there is a season or not a season, but it's another development year for us regardless, right? So even if we do have a season in January, this year is really being treated as a big development year to get everyone on the same page, same skills, same kind of idea and philosophy as a team. So the return to play season there, and then the drill setup's obviously been a little bit different. So it's kind of discouraged, not frowned upon, but discouraged that coaches try not to touch the volleyballs as much as possible. How we're doing in drills, so minimal blocking in certain drills, just because athletes aren't wearing a face mask when they're on court. So sometimes when you're blocking and attacking, you have guys who are about 1.5 feet away from each other at the net, kind of exerting sweat and whatever when they're hitting the ball and everything. So we've had to kind of monitor how much we're doing there. Again, in terms of drill setup, like we've got, like, balls are being washed after, nets are being sanitized, everything's being cleaned. So, and we're entering the building with our screening every day. It's definitely been a different process and a tougher adjustment, but the guys really want to get back, right? And I think that's number one, why it's a little bit more free flowing right now, to have everybody following the rules that have to be followed. And it's really easy after that, because it's either we follow them or we're not practicing, right? So it's been okay. We've gotten to a good process now and a good little kind of direction, and we'll see what the season looks like coming up. But if there is a season, that's great. We'll look to start in January and keep our training going on now. And if there's no season, again, it's definitely a different year with a global pandemic going on, and we're still going to be training during that time and find and find a good balance for athletes from a athletic standpoint, from also a mental health standpoint, because I think it's healthy that they're doing physical activity and being active together too.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously it's very different this year. And hopefully we get a little bit of good news. If we can, find this OUA season, maybe it can come back in winter.
Fingers
if
crossed,
it's safe,
man.
obviously. Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully they can, figure out some sort of way. But just one more question for you before we let you go. You're also involved with Niagara Youth Life Coaching. So can you just expand on that a little bit and what that kind of entails? And what have been the highlights of being involved with that?
Yeah, so I started this life coaching business when I finished my master's. So I guess as soon as I was done my master's, I got hired as a full-time technical director for the Niagara Rapids Volleyball Club, and that's a position I still hold to this day. So not only am I doing COVID policies and procedures for Brock, but also for the kids volleyball club now, where we had tryouts last weekend, and you can only imagine how different that looks for a youth sport tryout and our return to train. So it's been busy there. So what I wanted to do is I actually felt that I was doing too much volleyball, as crazy as that sounds, but doing too much volleyball when I graduated. And I said, I'd love to still work with kids, still help out, but it doesn't have to be in a volleyball capacity. And this is where this life coaching idea came out. And I think it's a fair balance between, it's in the middle of mentoring, where it's not a Big Brothers program where you're going and just doing whatever they want and hanging out and golfing, movie, whatever it's going to be. But it's also not on the extreme of counseling, where all the kids that I get to work with are really good kids that have great lives and great resources, and they're just as motivated to be part of this as I am. So the life coaching process, I kind of split into 4 different parts. So I work with kids. I've worked with the youngest kid probably being 10 years old to kids in university. And the way I describe it is like, you're just taking good from great, right? Like you're looking at something that you're really good at, and maybe you want to take it to a great level, right? And kind of progressing that way. So whether it's academic, right? So I get tons of kids in school that are looking for better time management strategies, how to plan through things. I think that's a big win that I do with our university guys already. It could be on the athletic side, so a little bit more on the sports psych side. And I get a lot of kids coming through in there too. Whether it's career, so you look at maybe the older group that I deal with, so the grade 11s and up. I get kids all the time that looking kind of outside of school and outside of sport, and developing whether it's resume writing, whether it's job interviews, anything that falls in that category. And then personal, right? So some stuff about themselves and kind of where they see themselves or what goals they kind of want to check off. And the thing I love the most about it is it's not a cookie cutter approach. I don't have a template to start my meetings with these kids. They're all different, and I have to kind of single craft each one as I go along. And it's been awesome. It's been such a great experience to work with a lot of kids, and I've had about 45 kids. This is year 4 now, so about 45 kids go through this program, and it's one-on-one. It's once every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's once a week. It's not a program that's ongoing. Some kids only they sign up for 4 sessions to learn about time management, and that's enough for them after. I've worked with one kid for about a year and a half, and he's actually going to grade 12 this year, which is awesome, and doing well. And I think that's a big hit home for me when it's something on the side, but just as important for me. And to have 45 kids, like that's again about 12, 13 kids a year. So I don't go on full time with this, but to have that part of my life, and I really enjoy that giving back side. And yeah, it's been quite the experience. Even in highlights, like I couldn't give you the highlights of a specific time, but I can definitely say there's been a lot of kids that have really pushed themselves too, and done some really cool things, and they're rolling now. I get a lot of grade 9s that come in, so I guess the nerves of high school, and even now in this COVID pandemic, like I'm booked up full, so I've got 6 kids that I'm capped out right now, and that's the most I can work with. And those 6 kids are all, how am I adjusting to this? How am I taking care of this? And going through that process. So it's been an awesome experience. I think it's something that I'd like to keep growing as we go along. And yeah, nothing but positive things. That's been a really cool opportunity for me.
Yeah, that definitely seems like a really cool experience, a great way to, not only give back to the Niagara community, but a way to, make a great impact on people's lives, much as you do with coaching and your TA responsibilities. And I mean, again, I've said this a bunch of times on our episodes, but the theme that we've tried to establish this year is getting out of your comfort zone. So the volleyball coaching, TA responsibilities, director of the Rapids Volleyball Club, and youth life coaching. That is 100% getting out of your comfort zone. Being able to balance that and, having the drive and commitment to make that happen is unbelievable. And commend you for that commitment. And if there's one thing our listeners at home to take that you should take from this episode, it is 100% that.
And sorry, even just to round circle, like I think to sum all that up is like I think it goes back to the whole you do your best work when no one's watching, right? Like it's
yep.
there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, and I'm a landlord as well. I own a couple houses too in St. Catharines here, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on with this stuff, and I love every minute of it. I love being busy. I've always been there, but I think the one takeaway for people, if whoever's listening to these anyway, but whatever group there is, I'd say the big one is like your best work is going to happen when no one's watching, and the good things are going to roll. But a lot of cool things going on. I'm very happy with all of them.
All right. Well, Matt, listen, we thank you so much for coming on. And this is a little bit of a curveball, but as is tradition, we like to give the guest some time to, say a little spiel or say whatever is on their mind to wrap up the show. So as we often say, Matt, the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think ideas like these and people that are willing to take the time and listen to some of these talks, and it's definitely influential, but it is what you make of it, right? And I see a lot of kids go through our sport manager program, and there's a lot of kids that say, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do this, and 1% of them are going to actually send an email, or 1% of them are actually going to go grab a coffee with someone. And there are just so many opportunities out there, but you can help yourself a lot when you're putting the time in and working behind the scenes. And I think that's been a big pro and a big kind of motivator for me, I would say, going through these years. And even to this day, right? Like I've always got a couple projects going on. I hold myself to a higher level of responsibility and accountability. But you don't want to give away all your secrets. There's a couple things in the works right now for me, and hopefully coming out in maybe January area, a little bit farther through. But the big takeaway for me is like there's a lot of great stuff that's available, and there's good resources and people that want to network and want to help people out. And for those listening, I'm more than happy to always have an online coffee for now, and feel free to reach out anytime. And I'm sure email information, everything's on our Brock website too to contact. So.
Well, again, Matt, we thank you again for joining us. Neville, thanks again for coming on to co-host. It was a great episode. Thanks again, folks.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Matt.